Welcome to Hue at Home. I'm Tracy Koga. This is a very special edition of Hue at Home as it is the last day of 2021. So we celebrate some very special people that we've had on this show. They represent the past, present, and future. So let's begin with a sit-down interview with Terry Tully and his mother, Osono, as they look back and reflect on the history of the Japanese internment right here in Canada. Well, Terry, Osono, I am honored that you have come here today because it's all about sharing your story from the beginning to where you are today. So I'm going to start with ladies first. Osono, tell us about your childhood. Where did you grow up and your journey to Winnipeg?
Well, I was born in British Columbia. At that time, the place where I was born was called Port Hammond, BC, but now it's all Maple Ridge or whatever. And I must have been in grade 3 or 4. And then we had to, after the, when the war broke out, we had to move out of the farm, and it was only 24 hours notice or whatever. And I was, small, and didn't know anything too much about all this. And we went, and next thing you know, we were in Hastings Park, and my father and my brother Bob, they were in a pavilion building, and we were in an exhibition building, and where all the bunkhouses were separated with army blankets for each family. And at that time, there was a big wall beside that Hastings Park where we were, and I think the exhibition was going on because I'm sure there was a lot of noise on the other side of that wall. And I don't know how long we stayed there. Being a young child, girl, I can't remember everything. And next thing you know, we moved to New Denver, and I think we were there for about 4 or 5, 6. I'm not too sure, but it was nice. It was all Japanese, and all the Japanese girls got to know the girls from the city, urban, and from the country girls. We all got together, and that's where I learned to swim and get on the pair of ice skates. I'd never seen one before in my life, but the girls from the city would, they would have it, and we used to go in a frozen pond up in Harrison Ranch and try to skate and get on a pair of skates anyways. And that's where I learned to swim, right by Slocan Lake, because it was a beautiful lake by New Denver where we stayed. That's where I learned to swim. I really enjoyed that part of it. And then they used to have, sometimes they used to have concerts, and then all the Japanese would have a variety show, concert. And that's where I learned to do a little bit of odori. Yeah, it was kind of nice. And I didn't have an odori dress, but Mother somehow made one for me. She had some kind of a material and put it together, and that's what I did, was a lot of odori dances with my girlfriend and all, the girls that I got to know. We used to all get together and go and get into this concert, whatever they're going to have for that.
Well, it sounds like for a child at your age, it was okay. But did you ever have a sense from your parents that things weren't totally
Well, for
right?
that, I think my father was really, my father and mother, yes, of course, to leave everything behind. And they only took the bare necessity. But one thing that Mother always insisted that she take that sewing machine with her. So the sewing machine followed wherever we went. But a lot of things we just had to leave behind in a bedroom upstairs. And Dad nailed the board against the wall, in the door, and make sure that nobody would enter it and whatever. But next thing you know, we didn't go back to see it anyway. So.
Well, and you're here with your son. So how did you meet your husband, Mr. Tully?
Well, from New Denver, we had to go someplace, and my oldest brother, Yas, was in Winnipeg, and so we came to Winnipeg, and we were in an army barracks, someplace in Trascona, someplace for a while, when we came to Winnipeg, because we had no place to go at that time, and all the Japanese were in some army barracks, I'm sure. But anyways, But then we had, well, of course, we can't live in that barracks all the time. My brother said, oh, better go to the sugar beet farm. I thought, well, yeah. So I said, even when I was a kid, I said, no, we should stay in Winnipeg, and then, you know, we can go to school, and then, and as we get older, we'll be able to help with the pay, you know, for the house and whatever. No, he kept insisting that we go to the farm, so we did, that's how we ended up at Tully's sugar beet farm. And I can remember being driven out to the country, and I can remember this field of yellow, I guess it was yellow, field of yellow. It looked so nice, but it was, I guess it was mustard or whatever. But anyways, at that time when we moved, I think the next spring, I think all the Japanese that were there before at Tully's, like the Kaidas and Nakais and Tazumis and Hiro, they were all moving into Winnipeg because they had bought a property, I guess, on outskirts of Winnipeg, and that's where all, they were there for what, 7 years or so, I guess. And then the next batch came, and of course when we moved there, and a lot of the Japanese that moved away, the Tullys would bring in Dutch family, and the Germans, and the Polish, and, you know, from Europe, and it was just like a United Nations. We're all working together, picking roots and doing sugar beets. And yeah, it was just, and we all kind of got together somehow. And then, of course, Mr. Tully had a daughter named Joyce, and Lauren was there too, and you know, and I got to be a good friend with Joyce. We used to chum around and play baseball catch or whatever, you know, ride a bicycle to our neighbors to visit. Joyce and I would do that, and I got to know them quite well. And the Mizunos were there too at the Tullys at that time.
So, what was it about your husband?
Well, he was on that drove us out to the field, you know, out to the sugar beet field and that, and he used to drive us to the, well, I don't really know. Somehow Lauren wasn't that much older than Joyce, and Lauren would be there all the time or whatever, and I don't really know exactly how he was just there somehow.
What about the telephone office?
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, it got so that when we moved, Dad bought up, you know, we moved from Tully's farm, and Dad bought how would you say, the whole section on
a block.
A block. And it was a place that just had an old brick house and just a rundown kind of a greenhouse. And Dad was aiming for the greenhouse. I guess that's what he wanted to do, kind of a market gardening. So he bought the place, but the house was nothing to, you know, praise about or anything. There was a row of willow trees, I think. It was in the front of the property, but it was a lane of willow trees, and it looked so, well, first thing Dad did was chop it all down, and I remember a lady that when I was working at the telephone, she said to me, I'm sure glad your dad cut all that tree down. It was kind of spooky, she said. It made the house look spooky or whatever. Anyways, and I started working at the telephone office, and of course Lauren would be there when I was finished work to drive me home with this and that. You know, I told him not to bother.
Not to bother you? Aw. Terry, for you, growing up, stories about your dad, Lauren, and your mom, did they share any of the history?
No, not really. Dad was crazy about Mom, of course. He always said, love is a itch in your heart that you can't scratch. Anyway. But no, they didn't say anything about that. And for us, we didn't know any better. And to going to school, Tim and I, it was in grade 1, it was about 2 miles away, one-room schoolhouse, grades 1 to 8. And then that summer, the summer afterwards, they built a second room. So it became a 2-room schoolhouse. And we're all kids, and nobody said anything. We didn't know any different. Everybody was the same as everybody else. It wasn't until we got to high school that there was a sort of a noticeable difference. Not a big deal, but you know, you could just tell that, you know, we were different from everybody else because they didn't grow up with them. And then one day,
They told wasn't it at the high school, they said that Tully twins, and they said they're not twins, they don't even look alike.
and there was another set of twins, and they really looked alike.
But
Anyway, one day went home with one of my friends
Who was that?
from high school, David Taylor.
Oh my God.
So, and for lunch, and introduced me to his parents, and they went, Tully, oh yeah, we know about you guys. I said, huh? And so apparently, when Mom and Dad got married, they eloped in '53 in the spring. It was a bit of a scandal in a way because it was mixed marriages pretty soon after the war. Everybody knew about us, but we had no idea what was going on. No. And then we started asking some questions and kind of got a little bit more of started to get a little bit more of an inkling of the background of what was going on.
And for yourself, Osono, did you ever feel different?
Isn't that funny? No, not really. Because, you know, I don't know. I really didn't.
People were pretty accepting at the time. It seemed like everybody was in the same boat. You sort of like not quite middle class, but working class, people coming from the farm. In the high school that I went to, Arthur Meehan, a lot of the kids were from Southport, the Air Force Base. And so they'd be changing every year. You know, you could make some friends, but then they'd be moving on. There wasn't any real, I shouldn't say there wasn't any real prejudice, there really wasn't. But, you know, you knew you were different, and sometimes they would, you know, sort of let you know that you were different, just from the way you looked. But that's okay. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing necessarily, and as it turned out later on, it was actually an advantage.
And Grandpa Tully, you know, Lauren's father was really good to the twins, and he was very, you know, he was very understanding. Yeah, and all the Tully families, we all got together. You know, we got along though.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it sounds though the Tullys really appreciated all of the immigrants that they brought on, and especially
I think especially the Japanese. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And he did treat everybody very well.
When the sugar beet is finished in the fall, they used to clean that shop of Tully's, and then all the Japanese would supply a little bit, you know, take a little, like a potluck get together. That's what we did at the shop. Then they, you know, they'd clean that shop, and all the Japanese all get together, and then they bring the potluck supper. We'd have all get together. Yeah, we did that every fall till most of the Japanese moved away after that. But yeah, and at that time, I think I met Lauren's mother once, and then she passed away. And she was a very nice woman, yes. All the Japanese really, really liked her. She was so nice, yeah.
A lot of the people who, a lot of the immigrants, etc., came to the farm directly from Europe or wherever they were from. Up until even a couple of years ago, every so often you'd get a knock on the door. Is this Tully's? I said, yeah. Is it still Tully's? I said, yes. Earlier on, it was like, well, my grandfather and my grandmother got their start here, and he wants to look around. Is that okay? I said, sure. And I said, oh, yeah, it'd be nice to talk to somebody. He said, well, Mom and Dad just live across the road. You can go see them if you want. They're still here? I said, yeah, right over there. And that just happened over and over and over and over again until a couple of years ago, and then not so much now, but.
Yeah, because there was a Dutch family that they you know, he milked, the son milked the cow and that, and he was the same age as Lauren and the same birthday date and everything else. But they moved to Ontario and bought a dairy farm. But him and his wife, they were traveling through Canada, and they came to visit us, spent a couple of nights with us, you know, and yeah, they reminisces about the olden days living at Tully's. Yeah, and then there's one of those Sato girls, Fred Osato. I don't know if you know them or not. But a lot. But anyway, Fred Osato used to have a grocery store in Winnipeg, but he's long gone. But they used to live at the Tully's Osato family, and one of them, Ruth, was the one that came back and came to the farm to visit. And she was saying the first thing she noticed about the farm was the trees were growing so tall. And she said she thought the shop and that looked so big, but now she said, sure, it doesn't look very big. She said, yeah, they were kind of reminiscing the yard and that, you know. And then she asked me if Jack was around, like Lauren's older brother. And, oh, yes. I said, he's still around. And she wanted to meet him because I guess, you know, because they knew them when they were living there. So, yes, she was, yeah. And then a lot of the others came around. The Hiroka boy, one of them came along from St. Claude.
Well,
Was she not married to a girl from St. Claude?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, she was one of the Hiroko boys.
Well, it just sounds like you're one big, huge, happy family. So I'm just curious, now if you look back, Osono, on everything that you've lived through, the hardships and the good times, you've raised a family. Would you have changed anything?
Well, I think, no. I think a lot of times, it kind of helps you when you have, go through hard times, sort of. And you appreciate the future. And, I appreciate now that I have, and I've lived in an apartment and all the work I used to do. And, when you think back, you wonder how you ever did it, sort of a thing. And everybody would say, when anybody would phone me and says, "What are you doing today?" I said, "Not a heck of a lot." And she said, "Well, it's about time. You don't need to do anything."
Well, and for yourself, Terry, now that you know more about your mom and dad and yourself, a farmer, I think life really become more rich when you know a little bit more about?
Well, when you know more about
you appreciate things more, I think.
when you know more about your past and all of that, it draws you in more. A number of years ago, Mom and Dad said, "You know what? You should go to New Denver. There's a museum there. It's beautiful." Because they had gone through there a couple of years before that. So Kathy and I did a road trip, and yeah, it was really interesting. And the museum was there, and we went in and we signed the book and all of that. And then, the following year, we get a phone call from this woman whose name escapes me right now, who was writing a book about the Slocan Valley, and each section would have a different sort of ethnic group that was there, the Doukhobors, then Japanese Canadians. And so she phoned me and she was asking me about that because she had read my name in the
comment on that.
Yeah. And she was talking and said, "Well, you should really ask Mom about that. She's still there?" I said, "Yeah, she's just next door." So she phoned Mom and talked to her, and so Mom's in your book. It was kind of like, okay, that was interesting. It was fascinating that people started to take an interest in this, especially when the redress was coming along, and there was more interest in ethnic groups, etc. Right next door to us is a Hutterite colony, Elm River Hutterite colony, and one of the teachers there, one project she had a number of years ago was to ask different ethnic groups to send someone in to talk to the kids about how you got here. And so she approached Mom, and Mom foisted it on me. And so I, wrote down the history of the stuff. I guess I interviewed my own mother, and went there and had some books that I could refer to.
Did you not take sushi?
No, I didn't.
I thought I had a sushi or something.
No. And so I was talking to the class, and one of the fellows there, Herbie, who ran the computer program there, afterwards came up to me and said, because we knew Herbie pretty well, and he said, "Yeah, we've been neighbors all our lives, and I had no idea about the Japanese community and what happened and how they got here." And he was just shocked. And I thought everybody had kind of, obviously they didn't have an idea of how they got here. And so I was thinking, gee, a little bit more education would help everybody, not just for us, but on how Mom and got here, but how the other ethnic groups got there as well. Because of course the Ukrainians earlier in the century had their issues as well with the government interning them, etc. So
We're obviously learning today about the Tully farm, the Tully family, how they've opened up their arms to our community, Japanese Canadians. I just want, maybe lastly, if Lorne was here, your dad, your husband, what would he say?
Well, I'm sure he'd be glad to know that he was happy to get to know the Japanese, because he said, when I got to know him quite well, he said, I used to look at the magazine and see these Hawaiian girls, he says, and I often wondered, I sure would like to meet, and you're about the closest I'll get to a Hawaiian girl, he said to me.
It was interesting, yeah. I remember at our wedding, my good friend Andy and was sitting beside Dad, and they were talking, and Dad pulls out his wallet and brings out this picture of Mom, a little bit younger, just showing off. One quick little story, okay. So things changed when I hit university. It was the early 70s. So being different was really cool. So suddenly that changed a lot of things. And I remember I was one summer, had some money, I went to Europe and doing the ruins. So I'm in Greece, yeah, and I'm in a taverna with all the other kids, and we're talking away. And this one girl across the table kept looking at me, and I thought, okay, I get it. I've been getting this the whole trip, because Asians didn't travel at that time. So, and they didn't quite understand what I was or who I was. And so she kept looking at me and said, oh, let her stew on this. So finally she couldn't stand it any longer. She said, I give up, what are you? And I said, I'm Canadian. You're an Eskimo. So, no, I'm not.
Wow, I'm sure he'd be very proud of both of you today. Thank you so much.
Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. Tell me what's up. I'm digging you. I'm hitting you. Girl, you know what's up. Say I'm digging you. And I'm holding you. So tell me what's up. Tell me what's up. Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what. Girl, you know what's up.
Welcome back to Hue at Home, and now we go to the present. Dennis Mackenzie is a veteran from the Afghanistan War, and he is not only a soldier with a big heart, but also a great gift. His gift is music to all the veterans out there. The war is not over, and so he presents the Guardian Angel Platoon. Hi, I'm Tracy Koga with something short and fun. This is a Hue soundbite. It is an honor and a pleasure to introduce Dennis Mackenzie to Hue at Home. Welcome, Dennis. It's been an amazing year for you, and it's about music. But I guess maybe let's talk, though, about the importance of what you're doing now for the veterans of today.
Yeah, Tracy, thank you so much, first off, for having me. It's been a big year for me. I am a Canadian Armed Forces veteran of 9 years. I served with the Royal Canadian Regiment in New Brunswick, and I also served in Afghanistan in 2007. And so since has been quite a time for me with dealing with post-traumatic stress and release from the military and loss, and lots of different things that have been challenges for me over the years. And so over the last year, I've actually been able to create and record an album with Dennis Ellsworth, a local musician here from Prince Edward Island. And a lot of the music and the songs had already been written. It was more of a getting it together as a complete project. And it tells, my military story from recruitment up until release, and highlights some of the major events that happened during my time overseas and some of the losses that happened while I was overseas, but more so the losses after returning from overseas. And for me, the big message here is to honor those that we're losing off the battlefield. We're very good as a nation at honoring our soldiers and our veterans while they're serving and while they're overseas. And if we ever happen to lose one overseas, we really rally together in a huge show of support. The Highway of Heroes I mean, how many images of videos have you seen of the beauty of that? The Trues wrote a song about it. And, you know, we're very good as a nation at doing that. But then if a soldier or a veteran takes their own life off of the battlefield, they're suffering from the same wounds, the same injuries, or sorry, different wounds, different injuries, but from the same battles. And we don't mention them. A lot of times I've been lucky to find good friends' names just through social media and, you know, maybe a newspaper obituary, but never knowing what happened or any of that. And I think the big thing for me is just trying to change that dialogue and honor those that we lose the same way on or off the battlefield.
And I want to ask you too now, Dennis, music for yourself, how did you find it? Or were you always interested in music besides everything that has happened?
I learned to play guitar when I was around 16, just, you know, basic guitar, learned how to play some chords and sing along. Campfire guitarist really was as far as I had gotten. And then when I was in the military, I played a little bit with some friends. And it wasn't until really the last 2 or 3 years that I truly started getting lost in music, is how it happened. It just came organically. It was, I really just started researching a little bit more into music and sounds and the types of sounds that you can create, and learning to feel that as an emotion. And it just got to the point where I could spend 6, 8 hours with a guitar on my lap and not do another single thing, and just getting lost, and then using that to try and put out how I'm feeling and try and portray the insides to the out.
Did that trigger memories of being back in Afghanistan and, you know, with your friends that you've lost?
Yeah, so a lot of the material that was written during those times. There are songs that were written after a loss, and during some hard times. The songs mostly weren't. It wasn't a sit down and write it now about how it had happened. This is years of work that has just all been collaborated together. So it was, um, for me, it was last November. I had an experience that really changed my outlook and my view on everything. And that's what really got the energy into creating the album, because before it was very sad and hurt. And I couldn't even read or sing a lot of the material myself because it was just too hard. And then I was fortunate enough to have an experience last November, which just totally changed the way I saw everything. And that gave me the name for Guardian Angel Platoon, and it was about a dream. So the experience was I had the chance of having a new therapy treatment, which, you know, we're now experimenting with psychedelics and treatment. And so I was able to see a medicine woman and undergo a meditation ceremony where it really made me look at the way things have played out, the way I see things, the way I'm still damaged and hurt by things. And I left that experience just totally fresh on everything. And it actually was a dream that I had after this experience, where I was with countless soldiers that we've lost home, overseas, friends that I knew, people that I didn't know, all dressed in white. And this is where the concept of the Guardian Angel Platoon came from, was this dream telling me that they're okay, they're doing their work somewhere else. And that is the Guardian Angel Platoon, is those that we've lost too soon that are still on the other side doing their work, helping us here.
Wow, it is just totally amazing. And your take now, Dennis, on the world today. We didn't think that we were going to be in a pandemic, let alone fighting COVID, and the increasing, I guess, mental health and wellness being so forefront. How has that sort of affected you too as well? And how are you coping?
So for me, I can be a bit of a hermit. I'm not an extrovert by any means. So for me, I spent a lot of time during the pandemic doing this and focusing on myself and working on music. I mean, it's troublesome where we are today with the divide the pandemic has created, and a lot of people are isolated, and a lot of people can't see their friends and family. And it's very difficult, and there's definitely a mental health aspect that's coming with that. And I think that's part of what this album is. There is things that everybody will be able to relate to. Anyone who has ever been touched in any way by mental health illness, whether it's yourself, friends, family, which I think is most of us at this point, I think the album will be able to speak to everybody on that.
And I guess for all of those out there, veterans, today, especially on this day, I guess words of wisdom, how you've managed to get to where you are today, and in your own words, what does it take?
It takes being very humble and being able to accept help and accept when you need help, and to be able to say that, you know what, I'm not well now, I'm broken, and to be able to accept that and seek the proper treatments for that. You know, we have a bit of a hang up with the word broken. We don't want to consider ourselves broken because we throw out broken things, but that's not the way I see it. You know, if I went into a hospital with a broken arm and got treated for a sprain, then it's never going to heal properly. And when we won't be able to accept the fact that we're in a broken state, then we can never go through the process to repair and move on from that state.
And musically speaking, the people that have helped you on this album, what was that whole journey like? It must have been pretty cool.
It was amazing. So I had the chance to work with a local musician here whose name is Dennis Ellsworth, and he's quite accomplished here in Prince Edward Island. He's seems to be involved in most things going music these days, and he's been at this for a long, long time. He started writing in high school, and he he was able to really help me see the rest of the parts that I wasn't quite there on yet. I mean, I'm I'm able to portray to a certain point, but someone with that experience who's able to sit down, and he writes such beautiful songs and melodies as well. So to have him be able to come in and, you know, it wasn't just he came into this because he wanted a job. He came into this because he believed in this album. He was touched by the mission in it, and he put his heart into it, and it really shows too.
And where do you think this will all lead? What is your grand dream, Dennis?
For me, it's really about being able to talk openly about mental health and suicide. I mean, I've lost many friends overseas, and I've lost many more now to suicide since I've come home. And that's a demographic that speaks right across the Canadian Armed Forces. We've lost 158 soldiers during the Afghanistan war, but since we've lost more than that to suicide, to their own hands. And for me, it's about really opening that door and that conversation. And I want it to be a comfortable topic. We shouldn't have to look through all these, you know, articles that are not really telling us anything, to try and read between the lines to find out what has happened to somebody, especially when there's so many others suffering in the same way. This is something that should be able to connect us as a society, not divide us.
Oh, most certainly. And I believe there's a pin because the single lanterns mean something. I was curious. I wanted to know the story about that.
Yeah, so the song Lanterns off of the album is a song about the fact that we do not honor those veterans and soldiers that we lose off of the battlefield, and specifically to their own hands, suicide. We are great at honoring when we lose a soldier during a conflict or during battle, but you know, Remembrance Day really traditionally doesn't have a home for those that we've lost to suicide. So with the song Lanterns, there's been a pin as well created that the intent is to be worn on Remembrance Day alongside of the poppy, to honor those that we've lost to suicide and their mental health injuries off of the battlefield.
Oh, well, that's so beautiful. And where can we go to get the album? And is it going to any charity, of course, to help your cause?
Yeah, so all proceeds from the Lantern are going towards funding and supporting music therapy programs for veterans. And there's a percentage of the proceeds going from the album as well. The album's available right now. Well, it's available through Bandcamp, and you can stream it through Spotify and streaming places as well, or you can just go to theguardianangelplatoon.com as well.
Oh, well, once again, it's been an honor. And we all thank you for what you've done for all of us, and we wish you and encourage you on this journey, because it is a very, very important one, Dennis. And it's people like you that will shine a light on it, and with your music, maybe touch way more than ever you could ever think possible. So thank you so much, Dennis.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
So the Hive is a climbing and fitness facility, so we're bouldering only, which means no ropes or harnesses. We use mats for protection. But the 4 pillars of our business are climbing, education, health and wellness, and community, and those aspects all kind of come together to create like a 5-star climbing experience.
And finally, we look into the future of music, which is a collaboration. We'll head out to Newfoundland, where Ana Luisa Ramos shows us not only does her heart belong to Argentina, it also belongs to Canada as well. The beauty of virtual TV, live, no, well, I mean, it is live, from St. John's, Newfoundland. I want to give a warm Winnipeg welcome to Ana Luisa Ramos. Welcome to Hue at Home. And Ana, we're going to talk about music, but I think your backstory is so incredible. You've trained classically, sung in have done opera, and now into this singer-songwriter realm of music. Your former background, like growing up in Brazil and singing at such a young age, how has that kind of helped, I guess, you now project yourself into the singer-songwriter role here in Canada?
Yeah, so hello, thank you very much for having me. It's such a pleasure. So I started singing in choirs, in classical choirs, when I was a kid, 9 years old. And for many, many years, I studied and sang in operas and concerts with orchestras and big and professional choirs. But the popular music, the Brazilian music, was always very present in my life. And I think that like the past decade that I started working more in the popular field, and I think that the classical training brings me, at least, of course, the vocal training that's amazing, the breathing part, but also the determination, because you have to practice every day. It needs to be something very steady, So I think that's for a musician, it's perfect, because we need to practice, and we need to improve our instrument. And as a singer-songwriter, I'm not sure if I had many benefits from the classical world, because for many, many years, I didn't think that I was able to write my own music, because I was a singer. I used to sing like other people's music, and mostly from dead composers, from 200, 300 years ago. So I never thought that I was going to be able, but when I started trying, I saw that I could write my own music.
So was this like a work in progress for you, Ana, or was there like an instant where, okay, I can do this, or someone influenced you, a mentor or another singer?
Yeah, so I have been playing with my husband and my musical partner, Eric, and for many years he was, Hannah, you need to try, and no, I can't do this. And if I'm not going to do something that I'm proud of, I'm not going to even try. So in 2017, I was in Scotland for some concerts, and I was attending this conference, and I did a workshop in creative writing. And there I wrote this poem, and then, oh, I think this might be a nice lyrics for a song. And for over a year, I couldn't like write like the music. And then one day I was playing the guitar and then playing the keyboard. And oh, I think that might be something nice. And when I started, I simply couldn't like not do that anymore. So now I have been writing many, many songs, which is great. Yeah.
And okay, so the big question is, how did you come to Canada? And more importantly, St. John's, Newfoundland.
So as I said, I'm married, and my husband, he's also a musician, and we moved here 2 years ago now because he was doing a master's in ethnomusicology at Memorial University. Yeah, and now he's doing a PhD in music too. But that's why we moved here
Oh
from
my
São
goodness.
Paulo, like this huge city, and to Newfoundland and Labrador and to St. John's, that it's the capital of the province, but at the same time it's a small city, you know?
Very
Okay.
small from what you're used to. Okay, so now
Yeah.
adapting yourself to not only a new country and a new city and language, and then trying to get your music going. How did things shift for you? So now that you are, having your sophomore album debut.
Oh, wow. I think the beginning was pretty hard because everything is new and different, like everything, even the way that you close your door, like everything is different. And because of the pandemic, since we weren't able to travel or to tour or to visit our families, actually something nice came out of this because we made here like our home. So that's something that is amazing. And St. John's, the province, is very, very musical. So every day you have some really nice concerts, like every day. And we met here some really nice people, and that's how I met Dean Stairs and Steve Stairs. They are from the Citadel House. And when I showed them like my album, they oh, we like that, so we're going to sign with you to release the album. So it was amazing.
Crazy. And I guess now too, your inspirations, a lot of your songs come from the land that you're presently living on, right?
Yes, definitely. And even of course that in Brazil we have the seasons, but not like here. So that's, for me, it's so nice to see, like, of course, the snow for you, it's something, okay, it's snowing, but for me, it was, oh, that's magical. We don't have snow in Brazil. And it's different when you are traveling and you see the snow, when you are living. So, and even now with the leaves falling, it's so beautiful. So it's amazing to be able to like be here and write music about this place too.
And I was curious because Sao Paulo, Brazil, I mean, millions of people living in very close quarters. What is it like now when you come to Canada and there's like millions of miles between places and people?
It's very different, but at the same time, that was something that we really wanted to experience. And back in São Paulo, I used to have this crazy life, working every day, singing many concerts, events, weddings, teaching. I'm a voice teacher, and driving 3 hours every day, like this heavy traffic. And when I moved here, my idea was to have a year off. Okay, I'm going to focus my new album, and that's it. But 2 weeks after I was here, I was already like singing and meeting new people and going to festivals and conferences. So at the same time that we have the calm and it's very quiet, we have so many festivals like every month, you know, that is really nice. That we can have like everything, you know,
Yeah.
the peace, the calm, the nature, really, really near, and all this art scene.
And have you had, I guess, great support from the local music community? And I know, have you heard the Celtic music too as well?
Yeah.
And I guess that's great, such a great influence, right, for the new creative sounds that you want to be creating.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by all the Irish influence that we have in here. Like, and it's very different because we have some pubs in São Paulo, but it's more touristic place, you know. And I've been a few times to Great Britain, but not in Ireland or Northern Ireland, more in Scotland and in England. So I was very surprised. And I think that's something magical about music, you know, it's a universal language.
Yes, it is. I have another personal question. Have you kissed the cod? Do you know? No, you haven't been screeched?
No.
So let me tell you. So screech is like traditional to Newfoundland whiskey, and so you take a shot, and you probably have heard this. Eric probably has been screeched. Yes.
Yeah, I tried the screech like last year, I guess, but I haven't kissed the cod.
Okay, so yeah, you kissed the cod. Yes, it's not that bad. It's a little.
No, you know that we have some pubs here that they do like the whole ritual.
Yes.
You know, like you drink and then you kiss the cod.
See, that's your next album, Kiss the Cod. And you'll have to learn Gaelic too. That'll be your next language to learn.
Oh yeah, wow.
Oh, and that's another thing too. So this album, you do have original songs by you, and this is both in English and in Portuguese too, correct? And the album is called
Amanheceu.
Amanheceu. Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It means dawn, everybody.
Yeah, actually, there's no direct translation to Amanheceu, but it's something like dawn or the dawning.
Okay, the dawning.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it is a beautiful album, and we're so happy that Anna's going to actually perform a song from the album, and we wish you and your husband Eric all the best. We can't wait for more music, and maybe you could do a collaboration with Great Big Sea. I'm sure you've heard of them. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But thank you so much, Anna, and thank you for sharing your fresh look at what international music can look like, and how I think it should be a mainstay and should be part of the popular pop music that we play every day. So.
Oh, thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity and and talking to you and showing a little bit of Brazilian music.
Yes,
like
and getting to know you.
Canada.
Okay, so you can take it away. You can introduce the song, Ana, and thank you so much. Ana Luisa Ramos.
So I'm playing Minha Canção. Minha Canção can be translated as my song, and actually it's a love song. And it's about loving someone, and this is kind of a song that I wrote for my husband. So, Minha Canção. Meu amor, sonhei com algo assim. Quis você pra mim cantar o amor, cantar a paz, cantar o nosso amor, cantar o amor, cantar, cantar o nosso amor, cantar, cantar, cantar teus olhos castanhos.
We want to give a very special thank you to all of our guests on today's show and leave you with this question. What are you looking most forward to in 2022? We want to know, so send us an email to hello@ilikehue.com, or you can message us on Facebook and Instagram at iLikeHue. But for now, like always, stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you next year on Hue at Home.